Continue following that breaking news in San Jose. A jury has found Theranos' founder Elizabeth Holmes guilty of 4 counts of fraud and conspiracy. The jury's decision today brings to a close a months-long dramatic trial at the San Jose Federal Courthouse. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alex Savage.
And I'm Heather Holmes. Frank and Julie are off tonight. The jury found Holmes not guilty, though, on some of the counts and deadlocked on the others.
KTVU investigative reporter Evan Cernovsky was in the courtroom today as the verdicts were read, and he's standing by now with more on this breaking news. Evan?
That's right, Alex. We're actually standing right outside the courtroom now, awaiting Elizabeth Holmes to come out. We saw her briefly inside the courtroom after this verdict was read. Obviously, this was not good news for Holmes. This was not good news for her family. As you said, guilty on 4 counts, all related to the investors in this case. 1 conspiracy and 3 guilty verdicts related to the fraud. Holmes was acquitted on all of the counts related to the patients in this case. This was the government's weakest part of the case. They didn't put on many witnesses and focused most of their attention. The 29 witnesses they called to the stand were really aimed at the investors here. Now, as you can see, there's cameras from all over the country, all over the world, really, waiting to see Elizabeth Holmes and prosecutors come out, see if they have any reaction. Now, in court, when the verdict was read by the court clerk, Holmes didn't have much of a reaction. She sat stoically in court. After the judge recused the jury, sent them out, Holmes had a moment there with her family. She broke down in tears. She went out of the courtroom into a conference room where her family gathered around. Her father was seated, looking rather dejected in the hallway. Now, we're still waiting for all other follow-up motions. The judge right now is speaking with members of the panel, thanking them for their service. We're going to find out about sentencing at a later date and other follow-ups. Holmes here faces 20 years in prison per count on this indictment. Each of the 4 counts would likely be served concurrently. So 20 years max here she's looking at. I'll send it back to you guys.
Evan, obviously this is a months-long trial, and the deliberations have gone on for 7 days now. There must have been a lot of tension inside that courtroom, especially as the jury was going back and forth with the judge over the fact that they were deadlocked on some of the counts. What was the mood like as these verdicts were read in the courtroom today?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of tension in that courtroom, Alex. And as you mentioned, this was a day full of tension. So early on, we got an indication through a note from the jury that they were going to be deadlocked on 3 of the counts. The judge read some instructions to them. He sent them back to continue their deliberations. And then toward the end of the day, they came back with a second note saying the same thing, essentially. We're deadlocked. We can't come to a conclusion on these 3 counts. At the time, we didn't know what the counts were. We didn't know what the verdicts were going to be on the other counts in this indictment here. And then, sorry, we're getting moved out of the breezeway here. But again, we're still waiting for the jury to come back. But as I mentioned, 4 guilty counts for Elizabeth Holmes here. We're waiting for the U.S. Attorney's Office. We're waiting for attorneys in this case, and we hopefully will catch them as they're coming out soon. Alex?
Okay, Evan, excuse me, we'll go ahead and let you go. We know that things are transpiring there, but appreciate your great reporting throughout this entire trial, and especially today as those verdicts were read. Evan Cernovsky, great work today. Thank you so much.